Hello everyone, I'm Nat Coalson. I'm pleased to be with you to share the RPS Travel Group Travel Image of the Year competition winners for 2025, along with the Best Image of the Month competition winners for 2024. Before we get into the winning images, I thought I'd take a few moments just to explain some of my criteria for the judging process. As with all effective photographs, a good travel image needs to start with that initial impact. We really need to get hooked in by the visuals. Following that, we need some lasting engagement. Beyond just the initial impact, we need something that will engage us and keep us interested intellectually. Especially in travel photography, the third following thing is a narrative element. A good travel photograph really needs to tell a story and bring us into the place. Composition and design, of course, is essential for any strong photograph, especially those that will be selected as winners in a competition. And then following this is any technical considerations. This is the general order that I approach all of my judging. And you'll see that the sequence here ends with the technical considerations, and it's unfortunate that sometimes images can really live up to the standards in all the other areas, but if it's let down by technical criteria, then it won't be considered for a commendation or a medal. As I go through the images, I'll talk a little bit about some of the aspects of these areas for each of the images. I wanted to say just a few words about the travel category in general. Now, it's safe to say that travel is a very wide-ranging and vastly encompassing genre of photography that can include elements of adventure, nature, landscape, architecture, portraiture. All of these can be a part of an effective travel photograph. But what we're really looking for is an image where the main subject itself conveys the experience of being a visitor to a place and what it really feels like to be in this unfamiliar environment and introducing us to different cultures and sort of bringing us to another place. So while aspects of landscape, architecture, portraiture, all of these other genres can be present, a winning travel photograph really conveys the sense of place and a spirit of place. This needs to give us some new ideas, information and understanding about the world we live in, and convey a little bit about the cultures of different places as well. So we're looking for the human element, illustrating the feelings of traveling, helping me imagine as the viewer that I'm traveling there too. So a good travel photograph really must answer a lot of questions. In this way, it's quite a bit of a documentary in nature. But it also needs to provoke a sense of wonder and inspire an interest in viewing the places. So the best travel pictures bring the viewer into the place that's being depicted. This means that the travel category might be a little bit less about personal expression and artistic impressions and views, less about your own unique perspective and a little bit more about sharing facts and universal truths so that the viewer can really understand the place that they're seeing. So as we look at some of the pictures, you'll see that the ones that have been selected really contain all of these elements. In choosing the images for the highly commended, there was a very fine line for some of them between whether they would receive a medal or simply a commendation. And so when we see my selections, just think back to, these basic criteria, firstly about the impact, engagement, narrative, etc., as well as what a good travel photograph really needs to accomplish. Okay, so with that out of the way, I'm going to switch my screen over to share the images. Bear with me just a second here. So to start, we're going to announce the best image of the monthly competition winners. And this year it goes to Donatus Gritius for his image Repairing Clothes, Souk al Sareh, Baghdad. So here is the image that I selected as the winner. This image has a number of notable attributes that helped it to sort of rise to the top. Firstly is it definitely conveys this initial impact, and that is carried largely by the color and the contrasts. There's quite a lot of fine detail, so the visual structure is quite complex, which draws us in for some further engagement. We really kind of want to see what's going on in this picture. The composition is very sound. It's well designed and well proportioned and balanced. The verticals are straight enough to be not distracting. The position of the main subject, the man in the lower right corner repairing the clothes, is really perfectly placed. It really anchors the composition, very, very well balanced, but it also allows us to roam our eyes around the background where there's all this fantastic detail from the other clothes and the textures of the fabrics up to even the smaller little pictures sort of on the wall and on the shelf at the back. So this image presents quite a lot of narrative detail. There's a lot of visual information being conveyed. In combination with the Arabic lettering on the signage, we get a very clear sense that we're in a foreign country, or foreign to us, from the UK and Western countries anyway. And so it conveys this sort of exotic, faraway kind of feeling. So I really felt that this image was deserving of the best of the monthly competition, and I commend Donatus on his award. So we're going next into the Travel Group Images of the Year competition 2025, starting with Highly Commended. So what we've done here is group together 16 images which have been highly commended. Before I start going through these, I again want to point out that the choices for some of these, whether they would be commended or receive a medal, it was very, very difficult. And it was a very fine line. But I had to keep referring back to my main criteria and the principles of why I would, elevate one rather than another. So starting with Beneath the Waves in Egypt, this is Noor Tucker, ARPS. This is really a fantastic image. It presents really great initial impact. It certainly carries the lasting engagement. There is a story here. I think if there's one reason why this one received highly commended rather than a medal, it's that to me this might be more appropriate in a different category or genre, maybe adventure, maybe nature. It very much is about visiting another place, but because the main subject is the ocean and the undersea environment, I felt like that there were others that conveyed more of a sense of place, at least one that I could relate to. And I think this relatability is actually quite important in travel photography, that I need to be able to picture myself being there. Something like this that, not everybody's a scuba diver. It is a little bit more on the fringes of experience. And again, I think maybe it's a little bit more nature, adventure kind of photography. So well done to Noor for a fantastic image. And next is Boat Children Tonle Sap, Cambodia, from Lachlan French, ARPS. This one does have all of the characteristics of a great travel photograph. It's got a sense of place. It's got the spirit of the people who live there. We really can have a feeling of what it is like to visit or even to live there. There's fantastic action across the frame. It's a very, very dynamic photograph with the diagonals created by the boats going across the frame. Great sense of capturing the motion. I think if there's one thing maybe that held this one back from a medal, it might just be the relatively flat lighting. It being that it's a bit overcast in the direction of the sun, it really just is just a little bit flat and lacking a little bit of contrast. But well done to Lachlan for a really great capture. Next is Boat Builder Madagascar from RM Plummer ARPS. Now, this one obviously has much stronger, more directional lighting, which I think does help to create some three-dimensional depth. The contrast that's created by between the highlights and the shadows, I mean, it really does help the image sort of come to life. I would say that this image does present quite a lot of strong impact, mainly due to the contrast and the shapes in the composition. There's a lot of little subtleties, though, that are really just lovely. The main focal point, between the two people smiling in the window and the man working on the boat, I mean, there's a lot of real good story there, a lot of narrative, and also quite a lot of interesting action for the eye. But if your eye roams around the rest of the frame towards the edges, you can see the young boy in shadow off to the left. Really a fantastic little detail. One really crucial thing of any composition, if you're going to pull my eye over to a part of the frame, there should be something in there as a little reward, for the effort of moving my eye around the frame. This picture is really, really well composed, tells a great narrative story, and definitely I commend RM Plummer on a great photograph. Okay, the next one is Camel Race Oman by Sanjoy Sengupta, LRPS. This picture is a really great fast action capture, which really does very effectively capture the spirit of the moment, and along with the people in the background, does convey a very clear sense of place. And there's, again, a lot of action in this frame. I think I might prefer that the main focal point wasn't so directly centered right in the middle of the picture. However, this is a case where the symmetry of the two riders and the two camels, it can be an effective way to emphasize the symmetry by placing the main focal point toward the center. But I'm just feeling like it's a little bit of a bullseye effect with a bit of extra around the edges of the frame. So I think maybe a little bit of recropping might improve it. Now, lastly, I think it's very important to point out that one of the main reasons why I wouldn't seriously consider this one as a medal winner for the travel category is down to the black and white monochromatic conversion. I had to think a lot about this during my judging, but I think I've come to the conclusion that in modern times, where color is the standard way of presenting a sort of narrative, documentary, storytelling, bringing me into what it was like in the place, the black and white conversion separates us from reality by 1 degree, and it's a little bit more of an artistic interpretation. And I think that in the travel category, I'm looking for something a little bit less expressive, less personal, and a little bit more documentary. So I gotta say, I think that color in this picture would have been a lot stronger. I may touch on that topic again because there were a few that were entered as monochrome, black and white, and some others that had quite a lot of special effects processing or heavy HDR. I personally feel, and this might be an opinion not shared by all judges, but I personally feel that the best documentary photos are, very honest in presenting reality. So the next one is Colors of Monastic Life, Myanmar by Sue Lambert, LRPS, CPAGB. This is a really quiet, contemplative, very engaging type of photograph. The initial impact, maybe not quite as strong because we really have to take some time to engage with this picture in order to really digest what's happening. But once we get a sense of what's happening, the mood of the picture is just fantastic. It's very atmospheric. The color is fantastic, and it is really quite a natural color, very straightforward and honest. I think that it does meet the criteria of a good travel photograph and really does take us to the place. So congratulations to Sue. The next one, Fishing Boats, Halong Bay, Vietnam, by Justin Cliff, ARPS. Now, this is one that I might suggest is a little bit more about the landscape than it is about, travel and the sense of being in a place. Now, the atmospheric mood does come across quite strongly, and we can get a feeling of the sort of the wonder and the majesty of the place, and it does feel quite exotic. But I think, in order to receive a medal award, again, I'm looking for a bit more story, and often that means more of the human element. Now, we do have the human element presented by the two boats. There is a little bit of a story there, but I would say that the main subject of this picture really is the landscape. And so, as far as travel photographs go, I think this one wouldn't quite qualify to receive a medal. Even so, it's a beautiful image and really is quite artistic as well. So congratulations, Justin. The next one, Going Home by Rashahi let me start that again. Going Home, Rashahi, Bangladesh by David Short, ARPS. David has captured a really beautiful moment here. And I mean, the initial impact is just over the top. Really, really love the feeling of this picture. And there's so much to look at as well. And I would say that it is, very much along the lines of a good travel photograph. It takes me to a faraway land. Maybe it's a little bit heavy on the landscape atmosphere, and the element of the human figure creates a very, very strong focal point. Notice too how the person in the sort of the middle right that creates the anchor for the frame takes up a relatively small part of the picture, but still carries huge, huge impact in the composition. Leading the eye up to the far distance, the line that's created at the horizon, there are a lot of little silhouettes of tiny little people going across there as well. And that is just such a nice little addition. It's a really, really beautiful photograph. And again, one that really, was on the margin for consideration for a medal. Congratulations, David. Really, really great image. Okay, the next one is called Kerlingarfjall, Iceland. Hope I've pronounced that correctly. George Pearson, ARPS. Again, really, really strong impact. This picture has almost all of the elements of a great travel photograph, but I would say that the human element is quite minimized. Now, we have to look kind of hard to notice that there is a figure, a person in silhouette. Actually looks like a photographer with a camera down in the sort of middle bottom. But this picture really is about the landscape. And again, might have been in serious contention for a medal, but there were a few others that carried a bit more narrative about culture, about humanity, about the feeling of traveling to a place and being able to relate to it in some way. But this is a picture that would look amazing, printed very large and hung on the wall. So it's quite an artistic landscape type of photograph. So congratulations, George. Okay, next up we have Morning Exercise Shanghai, China by Nyar Shun Victor Wong, FRPS. I really hope I haven't butchered your name too much. Again, the impact is just over the top. And the impact is provided by a few elements here. Firstly being the shapes. The triangular shape of the building pointing up really has a very strong sort of vertical energy. The position of the sun just peeking out from behind the building, and the way that the photographer has captured this with the sword point just positioned absolutely perfectly, pointing to the sun and just between the building. Really, I mean, the position and the posture of the main subject just could not have been captured better. Really, really fantastic. Again, is it an effective travel photograph? It does certainly show a faraway land, and there's some elements of the exotic, and it's got a great sense of wonder. This is one that also would have been in serious contention for a medal. I might wonder, though, if the landscape orientation and the horizontal aspect maybe is not serving it as well as it could. Although I can understand the interest in keeping that vast expanse of sky, it might be worth considering either a square or even a more vertical crop, because maybe there's a little bit extra on the sides of the frame that are weakening it just slightly. In particular, at the left of the frame, all those railings, quite a lot of detail there that's very attractive to my eye, and I don't really want to be pulled over there. So maybe revisit the crop, but again, a really, really strong image. So congratulations. Next, we have another morning exercise, this one in Varanasi, India, and also by the same photographer, Nyarshun Victor Wong, FRPS. Interesting, two morning exercises from the same photographer, and they really could not be more different. This one is, really, I have to say, just lovely. The effect that's created by this sheer fabric showing with the backlighting coming through and the silhouette and the shadows of these figures is really, really quite artistic. And it's a really quite expressive kind of a photograph. Although it does carry some story and some narrative. I'm a little bit distracted maybe by the angle of the pillar in the center, just being slightly askew. And again, there were a few other pictures that received medals that maybe had a bit more of a story and a sense of a place. But congratulations, really, a really fine image. Okay, the next one is Proud Artisan Turkey by Noor Tucker, ARPS. Really very, very atmospheric. It's got great initial impact, a lot of punch provided by the very low-key, dark composition, punctuated by these really bright, lovely highlights, creating a rim light around the figure. The position of the hand and the pot really is perfect. I mean, I just got to say, it's a really gorgeous image, and it's also very artistic and very expressive. The black and white conversion, helps to make this quite a bit of a fine art photograph. The longer I look at it, the more I'm seeing that I really enjoy, and it's just, there's so much to see here. I just, again, think that the medal winners, for conveying a documentary sense of, bringing me into what it's like in the place, in a sense of reality. The monochrome conversion just, separates me one step from that. But aside from that, I got to say, this is one of my very favorite photographs that I reviewed. And by the way, there were 171 entries this year. And so it was, a very difficult choice to narrow it down, even to get the highly commended. So great job, Noor. It's a really, really beautiful photograph. Next is Purification Ceremony, Kailash Valleys, Pakistan by Joe Kearney, ARPS. Really great initial impact provided by the graphics and the high contrast, in particular the backlighting and the silhouette from the very bright window in the center of the frame at the back. That window and the figure in front of it works really nicely along with the main subject at the front and the fire down in the lower right. We've got a really nice sort of movement throughout the frame, and I'll just use my cursor here. Hopefully you'll be able to see this. So I would suggest that when this picture first comes on screen and we first view this, our eye is going to go straight to this rectangular shape in the back, only because it's so bright. The relative contrast with the figure in the front creates a shape where we can immediately recognize a human. And so this, I think, serves as the initial focal point. This is going to draw our eye right away. We then move over to the woman and the baby. Really nice dynamic action, triangle created between the two faces and the breads. We then travel down across to the fire, crossing over the lovely other stacks of bread, the kettle, and then back up again through the smoke up to the figure. So the eye action traveling through this frame is just really fantastic. And it's one that creates lasting engagement through the sense of story and the narrative, but also the graphics themselves are allowing my eye to go around and enjoy looking at all the various elements of this frame. Now, if there's one thing that sort of held this one back from a metal, it is the image quality, because it is quite noisy, obviously captured in quite low light, heavily processed. I'll just zoom in very briefly here so we can see what I'm talking about. The amount of noise that's in here is something that in a competition is going to affect the outcome of whether it receives a medal or maybe just a commendation. So had this photograph been either captured in a way to create less noise or processed in such a way to remove more of that noise, so it was a bit of a cleaner finished result, I might have considered this for a medal, because really, as far as travel photographs go, it's really got it all. I would also point out, though, that this circular element here in the background, I'm finding just the slightest bit distracting, because it's really quite calling attention to itself. And I think to minimize that, maybe cropping it just in half, or maybe just take off just a third of it, might make it a little bit less sort of dominant within the frame. But congratulations, Joe. This is a really, really beautiful and well-captured image. Next is another very atmospheric and another indoor image with smoke and a fire. Again, a really beautiful, a lovely vision of an image. I would say the initial impact is maybe a little bit diminished because it's all relatively low key, pretty low contrast, and not a lot of initial punch. The punch that is there, though, is provided mainly by the color, which I think it does look to be not over-processed or oversaturated. It's quite natural color, so I feel like this is what it would really look like to be there. Apologies, I skipped over the title here. This is Quiet Contemplation, Ton Kim, Vietnam, by Justin Cliff, ARPS. So Justin has captured a really intimate moment here, and I do think that intimate moments can have a really nice place in travel photography, but again, it's maybe bordering on portraiture, maybe even a little bit of fine art, right? It's a very lovely photograph, and then it does tell a story, and it brings us into the sense of place. If there was anything maybe holding it back from a medal, I might suggest some of these elements, like along the edge here. This is a little bit distracting and should be either cropped or retouched to remove. But otherwise, a really strong image. So congratulations, Justin, on the highly commended. Next, we have Schoolgirls, Kailash Valleys, Pakistan by Joe Kearney, ARPS. Really a special moment captured here. This is one of those moments that, as for photographers, these are the memories that really last. To be witness to something like this is a privilege, honestly. Now, I also am quite captivated by the facial expression of the young girl in the middle, between the two in the front. The eye line, the gaze between the two girls in the front in sharp focus takes us directly across the face of the girl in the back, and she appears to be having just a slight bit of a scowl, almost as if she is feeling left out of the action, maybe. I mean, a great narrative can raise some questions, right? I mean, I think with a really good travel photograph, we want to tell the majority of the story. Like, I need to have a lot of facts and a lot of information in order to know sort of where I am and what it's like. But it's fun to imagine some aspects that can be a bit more personal and maybe a little bit more subjective. And one of these is looking at the faces of the students in the background. It gets our imagination going. And I think most great photographs, maybe except for photojournalism, great photography is about getting my mind engaged and getting me to wonder and think about it, and that's what creates the engagement. So really, really great result, Joe. Again, one of the things maybe that kept this from a medal is the technical quality, really not quite there, and also just being really picky. This element in the upper left corner where we can just see this little sliver of a window is kind of pulling my attention up there a bit, and I think that needs to be either removed or burned just to diminish the eye attractiveness of that. But great photograph. Okay, what do we have next? So this is Tourist, Queen's Tower of London, UK by Ruth Hanson, ARPS. This is just such a really lovely, almost whimsical, but just a very sweet moment captured here. The main subject, this girl who's looking down, she's looking very shy and maybe embarrassed and really not quite sure of herself. The gaze of the soldier in the background is is really quite telling also. And the eye action that's created here between the three figures, we've got the soldier, the main subject of the girl, and then of course the girl in the foreground, slightly out of focus, that's taking the photograph. There's a really nice triangle here where our eye goes sort of between the three, really creating a strong sense of depth and dimension. Really, it can kind of take us into the place, and we can feel very much like what it is to be there. I find the shallow depth of field effect and the sharp focus on the soldier an interesting creative choice on the part of the photographer. Ruth has chosen to have the soldier in sharp focus and the other two figures, somewhat in soft out of focus. And I have to wonder maybe what it might look like if the girl being photographed at the right, the embarrassed one, if she was the one in sharp focus and maybe if the soldier was a little out of focus. The only reason being that the soldier being in focus, but the main subject of the girl being out of focus, there's a bit of a tug of war happening there of which is the main subject. And that has the effect in any photograph of weakening the impact and the engagement, because we're struggling sort of to have one main focal point or one main anchor. I need something to sort of know for sure what I'm supposed to be looking at. And, this is almost there. And one of those that, were it captured and maybe even processed a little differently, a little bit of a tighter crop at the top, maybe. This has all the makings of a really good start. So congratulations, Ruth. Highly commended. Really, just a really lovely, sweet image. And for the last of our highly commended group, we have Winnowing Vegetables, Long Bien Market, Hanoi by John Speller. This is another really nice action capture here with the freezing of the motion as the woman is shaking the basket. Nice little motion blur of the vegetables in there. It does create a very strong sense of place. It's got pretty good initial impact, mainly provided by the color contrast. The color of the shapes of the bowls at the lower right is pretty powerful. The circular shape of the wicker basket in the sort of the middle of the frame, creating a lot of nice kind of movement through the frame. I would say that if there's anything that would hold this back from a medal, really simply comes down to the fact that within a competition of 171 images, as a judge, I need to make some hard choices. And in the end, the ones that are picked for the medals versus just being commended can be sometimes a very fine line. And it comes down to the strength of the way that the image meets the criteria that I laid out earlier. And this one, just honestly fell just a little bit short, but it really is a fantastic travel photograph. Well seen, very well captured, really great responsiveness to be able to capture a picture like this in the moment. So well done, John. We switch now to the medal winners. We've got the third, second, and first place medals, which are bronze, silver, and gold. I am very pleased to present your three medal winners for the Travel Group Images of the Year Competition 2025, beginning with third place. Bronze medal is Camel Race Mongolia by Nyar Shun Victor Wong, FRPS. And here is Camel Race Mongolia. Really great action capture. I mean, the impact is very strong and definitely, grabs us. This is mainly owing to the contrast created by the bright snowy field and the darker figures of the person and the camels in front. As I look at this image, I might suggest that maybe it's just the tiniest bit underexposed. I think I really would prefer to see the snow being, more of what I would think of as a naturally very bright white. Of course, ideally without blowing out too many of the brightest highlights, but I think just, a third of a stop or a half of a stop increase in the upper range of the tone scale would really kind of improve this. This one, I'll be honest, kind of went, back and forth between the medal positions because it is a very, very strong image. A picture like this is not easy to get. And I think that, in the end, that does factor in to the judging is, what is the level of skill that's demonstrated. Some of the images that were commended or even some that, didn't receive recognition, as a judge, I like to see, the skill and the sort of the technique of the photographer, and this one definitely carries that. So third place, bronze winner, maybe a couple of tiny little improvements. The longer I'm looking at this, maybe I'm wondering if there's just a little bit too much sky at the top. If you wouldn't be too opposed to sort of a non-standard, more of a panoramic crop, you could just slice off a bit from the top, or possibly crop the top and left just a bit tighter. I would say, though, that it's going to be always very important to retain enough space to the left because we've got a strong right to left action here. And because all the action is moving toward the left of the frame, you don't want to get too close to that first camel on the left. But really well done, Mr. Wong. Congratulations on a bronze medal. Next is Joe Kearney, silver medal for tea stall in Peshawar, Pakistan. And this one, immediately draws us in. There's a few factors what are contributing to the impact. Now, before I get to the details of that, I will point out that this composition is really, really focused on the center. And in this case, I think that works okay. It's always worth revisiting your crop, though, to evaluate whether moving the main focal point and the main action off center can produce a stronger result. So I might like to see what it would look like with some of the cropped off of the left, and maybe even off the right as well. You could try a 3:4 or a 4:5 aspect ratio, or if you didn't want to change the crop, use some graduated fills, a gradient across the left and right to darken the sides so that our eye is not being pulled out to the sides of the frame, because there's a bit extra kind of it on each side. Now, the initial impact created by the shapes and the contrast in the middle is really, really fantastic, and it does draw us right in to the main action. What really works beyond that, though, is how the lines that are created from what I would say is probably the critical point of focus and the main center of interest is where the milk is going into this kettle. This is like the high point of the action, and this is where everything sort of begins and ends, right? But we've also got a really lovely line leading us up the milk, through the cup, to the hand, up the arm, across the man, down, around, this really lovely circular path. This little journey we can take through the frame is really great. Once we've digested all that, though, there's plenty of other interest in the elements of the frame. Now, this little bit of, I'm assuming, smoke or steam catching the sunlight, a little bit out of focus, maybe just the tiniest bit distracting because there's not a lot to be gained there. But the amount of detail that's found in the surrounding area, including these little spigots here, and even the Coca-Cola machine in the background, really, really interesting supporting narrative. So this is a picture that I really feel, carries all of the elements of a winning travel photograph. It's got the impact, it's got the lasting engagement, it's got the narrative and story. The composition is sound, although there maybe are some areas for improvement. And technically, it's really well executed. It's sharp where it needs to be. The exposure looks good. The color looks nicely balanced. It's not been over-processed. Congratulations, Joe. A really great result on your second place silver award. And now, certainly not least, last but most, is the first place gold medal winner, Brian Houghton, ARPS, receives first place gold medal for ladies making fishing traps, Tien Lu, Vietnam. This image is just absolutely beautiful, and I would say fully fills all the criteria that I've explained and everything that I'm looking for in a winning travel photograph. And the lighting is just so beautiful that it maybe is even bordering on a fine art application. But it has all the elements and everything that a great travel photograph needs. It's got the exotic feeling of a faraway place. It's just the right sort of focal length and distance to show the space and make me feel like I could actually be there. The three figures, 3 and any kind of odd number in the visual arts is always very strong. We can go very easily between the 3 faces. The position of the basket between the 2 women to the right is, really creating just a strong, strong counterpoint. And the visual echo and the rhythm that's created among all of the other baskets, I mean, it just really all works together. I love how the balance of tones with especially the very dark area of the background allows the main subject to really come to the forefront. If there was any, creative dodging and burning done to achieve this, I think it's been done extremely well, very effectively, because it looks natural. It doesn't look over-processed. Everything looks really clean. So from a technical standpoint, it's got it all. The more I look at it, the more I love it, the more there is to see. And so congratulations, Brian, first place gold medal. So this concludes our review of the Travel Group Images of the Year Competition 2025, as well as the Best Image of the Monthly competition for 2024. Thank you to everyone who entered, and congratulations to all of the highly commended and the medal winners. For those whose images weren't selected or didn't do as well as you would have hoped, don't be discouraged. Take heart. Try and learn as much as you can. Hopefully some of my critique and my comments have been informative. I do teach photography in all aspects to photographers working at all levels, both group workshops, one-to-one private coaching and mentoring. And I also have a gallery of photography called Photique in Leamington Spa, and we do photography and only photography, but we are happy to share and promote photography in all of its forms. So check out our website at photique.uk. If you'd like to see my work and learn more about what I do, you can visit my website at natcoalson.com. Thank you very much, everybody.